Yo, what's going on, man? Today is August the 16th, 2024. It's your boy Chris, and this is the ChrisBeCappinn NBA Show, where we are live on YouTube. Not live on Twitter. Yet again, I got to figure out that I never think about it anymore after the show is over, but I'll figure that out. So I'm streaming again on Twitter. I'm your host, Chris, and if you're new, I talked about this yesterday. It's a pretty laid-back sports betting show that we do daily, covering the WNBA, NBA, and NFL show will be today as well. We'll go over the first to start the divisional previews. The goal of the show is always to provide some helpful information, share whatever it is that helps us cash bets, and be profitable as sports bettors. As always, the show is presented to you guys by OddsJam, the best sports betting software on the planet, in my opinion. There is a 20% discount code off your first month if you use code CBC, which is also in the link in the description. We are so all that aside, we're coming off a terrible day yesterday, and I'm laughing to keep from crying, man. Yesterday I gave out Chicago plus 3.5. That news, of course, came before Kennedy Carter was ruled out with a non-COVID illness. I mean, that's 21, 22 points per game. I mean, we don't even know how much he was going to score without Marina Mabrey. Big blow. We're on the wrong side of it, and that was a loss. I didn't want to cash out the bet. I wanted to try to find a way to hedge, but Chicago never had it. I think they were down 11-2 before I even turned the game on in the first quarter. Teresa Weatherspoon already called the timeout, and they ended up just getting smashed. Never really showed up for the game. The outside shooting is going to be pretty bad. They remind me a little bit of the Connecticut Sun without Alyssa Thomas. So we'll have to see how they can generate some offense, because it's going to be a lot of under on their team totals. Phoenix is not a great defensive team, and they were able to go out there and just smash Chicago yesterday. Early game was over before it even started. And then I added the Sparks, man. Plus the 11.5. Really loved the look. I talked about the New York Liberty being 1-11 against the spread when they were laying double digits this season. Didn't matter. Sparks never came to play. And it's crazy because I talked about liking the Dogs a lot yesterday, which I still did. I thought that they were the right side. The Dogs got smoked yesterday outside of the Washington Mystics, who kept the game close and then just couldn't hit a free throw, couldn't stop turning the ball over. As we kind of predicted, though, like I didn't want to take the plus 8.5 for that reason. I thought that the longer the game went on, the more that it would favor Minnesota being at home, and it being Shakira Austin and Brittany Sykes' first game back in quite some time. So all of the favors ended up covering yesterday due to what I think it was 11-point differential in the fourth quarter for the Mystics in the who the Mystics play? The Lynx, that game. But the other two games were over with before they even started. Really just shows the hierarchy in the WNBA. So we'll jump into the games for today, see if we can make some money. The numbers on the left side are updated: 57, 46, and 2. We're up 4.28 units after losing almost a unit and a half yesterday, going 0-2 with Chicago and trying to back a couple dogs. We'll go through a couple of the comments and we'll get into the 3 games that we have on the board for today. And then we'll get up off here, man. Let's see. King Prediction says play Sky and Lynx game under 160.5 and Sparks team total under 78.5. Mercury won, so fading them today. Okay. Roman says Sky really lost by 20 and they were my last leg. That's tough, man. That's really tough. They got smoked yesterday. Helm says Mercury was free, and they really were yesterday. Even if you got the late number at 5.5, I think. And it's interesting because, just real quick on this comment from Helms, it's interesting because the Chicago Sky just happened to play so much better on the road. Now, granted, once you lose, a talent like Kennedy Carter, you're probably gonna lose the game anyway. But man, that was terrible basketball to watch. What up, Mitchell? He says, good morning. The late injury news as easy for Mercury. Sparks looked super tired yesterday. We back today to rebound. Absolutely. Absolutely, Mitchell. Absolutely. What up, Prolific? He says, I swear I never seen the live like that, look like that. They made some enhancements from Paris. Yeah, that was interesting yesterday, man. That's the Liberty that you expect to come out. That's the Liberty that's the best team in basketball. And if they play like that, I think they could beat the Aces for the championship. But I mean, when are they gonna turn it on? When they gonna turn it off? They didn't cover either game at home, and they go to LA yesterday and absolutely put a beat down on on the Sparks, the shorthanded Sparks yesterday. What up to my guy Justin? Malik says, yes, sir. Good to see you, my guy. Let's have a good Friday. What up, Peasy? Says Sparks first half was disgusting work. Sparks second half was disgusting work. I woke up this morning because I fell asleep on it last night. The Sparks actually, they lost every quarter. They didn't even, you know how sometimes you like pull the starters and, you know, you'll see you want to have something as a head coach if you're getting blown out. So you put in a rotation and you expect the bench to play hard. That Sparks their bench couldn't even outscore the Liberty bench yesterday. She'd also mentioned in that, says Sparks stunk it up. Wasn't expecting that. Same. What up to my guy Mark? Says good morning, Chris. I need to shake off some of the tough losses yesterday. Absolutely. Right there with you. Going 0-2 when the WNBA just came back does not feel good. Helm says Mystics first half money line was good yesterday. Yeah, they did. I think they ended up having a 2-point lead at halftime. Malik says NBA schedule is out. Are you doing a video for total? Yeah, absolutely, Malik. They'll be coming here soon. Yeah, I will be doing. As always, I always do NBA season previews. I'll break down all the teams and gather all that information. I did see the schedules came out yesterday, so I'm super excited for the NBA season. A couple teams I know I'm already wanting to fade too. What up, Ball Talk? And she says like the Mercury again today. What up, Bissy? Says morning, Chris. Let's get to it. Let's do just that. So first game up, we got the Seattle Storm. They will be in Atlanta, taking on the Atlanta Dream. So, you know, I did a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I always do this. I do a lot of analysis around these games. Like I don't just spend 5 minutes on the game. I'm thinking about it from the player perspective, from the coaching perspective, from the injury report perspective. And I didn't do that for these games today. After last night, I said, you know what, man? And I had already looked at a couple of them, but I said, you know what? I'm not gonna take as deep of a dive into these games. I'm gonna just look at a couple numbers and kind of go with what I see for the teams. So when I'm thinking about the Seattle Storm and I'm thinking about the Atlanta Dream, and I'll just go to this page because these are where my thoughts were. The Seattle Storm, neither one of these teams on the first leg of a back-to-back. I think Seattle got Indiana up next. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I saw. And I can't remember who Atlanta plays next. But the injury report is pretty clean. Seattle doesn't have anybody on there. Atlanta only has Jordan Canada on the injury report for today. And Seattle's by far the better team. They are 17-8, as you guys can see straight up. They are 15-10 against the number. They have covered 6 of their 11 spreads on the road, straight up and against the spread on the road. And the Atlanta Dream are, and typically with the Storm, you see, as you can see, at the bottom here, they deal with their defense. They're the second-rated defensive team over the last 5 games. And the Atlanta Dream are not a team that I want to trust to really do anything, specifically at home. For whatever reason, when they play well, it's typically on the road. 4 of their 7 wins so far have come on the road, whereas at home, they're only 3-8. Straight up and against the numbers. So for whatever reason, the Dream just are fade at home. I'm not really looking to back the Dream. Offensively, you can see last 5 games, they're 12 rated. Defensively, they're 6 rated. They did have a really good game with the Seattle Storm right before the break. For people who remember that one, they had a really good game in Seattle where they kind of fought tooth and nails with this Seattle team. And I can't remember if let me see. I want to say they ended up covering that big spread. Of course, they ended up losing the game. I'm going to go back to it real quick. So they were getting 14 points on July the 14th. This was right before the end of the break. They were getting 14 points in Seattle. They ended up losing the game by 11. It was 81-70. And in that game, it was more so them starting off really hot and then not really being able to score the ball late. Both teams started off pretty hot, and then the game still ended up going under the total of 156, even though both teams started off really hot. Tina Charles had 12 points. Alicia Gray had 12 points. It was Maya Caldwell who had 19 points off the bench. I remember her points probably being at 7.5, and then Area Powers having 14 points. So for Atlanta, and the Olympic break, you could take those things into consideration. I know I don't really think they had anybody outside of Ryan Howard, who played on that the 3-on-3 team. And then for Seattle, they had Izzy McMagor. She played on the team. Jewel Lloyd, of course, was on the team as well. So you got to, kind of weigh the rust versus, fatigue factor. I guess after yesterday, I was on most of the teams that didn't have any players in the Olympics. That makes me like Seattle even more. Izzy, coming off a 30-point game, in the bronze medal game, she ended up dropping 30 against Belgium to secure the bronze medal. Jewel Lloyd, she didn't play much in that. I don't even think she got off the bench in the USA game, championship game against France. So I'm just not really one to bet against Seattle. I do think they're the much more superior team. Do they win the game by 7? I'm not sure. If anything, I think Atlanta probably wants to come out early and fight to try to stick around, but I do think that they run out of gas late. If I'm playing a game, I'm only looking towards the Seattle Storm minus the 7, maybe even a second half spread before the game starts, because I do expect Atlanta to try to fight early and Seattle to kind of do what they do late in the game, especially with their defense. As far as the total goes, I would also be looking towards the under. 158.5 is the number right now. A lot of it is what you guys see at the bottom of the screen to the right-hand side. Atlanta offense is just not – they're the worst offensive rated team, and that's led to, them just winning 7 of their 16 games. And they don't play with pace. They're not going to play with too much pace. So worst rated offensive team. Defensively, they can kind of stick around a little bit. But if Seattle's going to struggle in any area, I don't think it's going to be defensively. I think they may miss a couple shots that they typically make. Very, very similar to what we saw with Minnesota and Washington yesterday. I can see that game kind of going like that, because Minnesota, really good defensive team, offensively can struggle at times, and that's what we saw up until the fourth quarter yesterday. So I say all that to say, I'm only looking towards Seattle minus the 7. I also would be looking towards the under, maybe even the Atlanta team total to go under. Let's see what you guys are thinking about this one before we jump into the next one. Helm says the Bucks not even playing on Christmas. Boo. Man, that's tough. I didn't even look at the Christmas Day schedule. I don't think I remember who's playing on Christmas. But yeah, that's crazy. Hopefully they feel disrespected and they can potentially do something about it. But I mean, the East is getting better. The Bucks kind of staying the same. So we'll see what happens next with the Bucks. But yeah, they got to revamp a little bit. Helms likes the Storm first half minus the 3.5. Dropping Dimes also like Seattle first half minus 3.5, thinking that they get the job done a little bit more earlier. Real quick, let's look at something real quick. Let's look at why you guys are talking about that. Let's go look at first half for these teams. So net rating in the first half, Seattle is the second best first half team in the WNBA. They are a plus 7.9 in the first half. And Atlanta is the second worst first half team, a minus 12. Let's just go last 5 games. Seattle is second best last 5 games, plus 11.5. Atlanta is second worst again, minus 16.5. So to have a 2-possession lead at halftime makes a lot of sense. I couldn't talk you guys off. I think that's a really good look. Yeah, I think that's a solid look. Atlanta, Seattle first half minus the 3.5 could be. I'm gonna write that down. Maybe add it to the short list for sure. I was thinking maybe just for the whole game too. Seattle first half minus 3.5. Okay, I like it. Jabba Dom says as long as Wright is in charge of the dream, it will be a nightmare. Justin also likes Seattle minus the 7. Put that in his pocket. Victoria A became a member. Hopefully we can give out some winners for you, Victoria. Appreciate you for joining the community. Peasy says he likes Alicia Gray under her 14.5 points. Helms likes Jewel Lloyd over her 20.5 points. So thinks Jewel Lloyd has a big game today. Mark says Storm line moving on my book from 7.5 to 8. Damn. Let's see what it is. Because it actually was at 7.5. And then when I woke up this morning, it went back down to 7. So now money is coming in on Seattle, pushing it to 8. Looks like 7.5, some 7.5 still available. So if you want Seattle, you definitely want to get the best number. You might want to lock it in now. That's the way that I'm looking in this game. I like the Storm. I locked it in last night. Mitchell says, best of luck. I will be with you. Jay says, I know Minnesota is good, but they play with their food in some games. Yeah, they do. They do. Helms says, Dream just so bad in the first half. They have been. You're absolutely right, Helms. And the numbers are definitely there to back it too. Bitsy says he likes the Dream Team total under 75.5. That's the way I would be looking. Dropping Dimes also likes the total for the first half under 78.5. And Helms says he bet both spreads. I like it. Only way I'm looking. Mitchell says you can still get a 7 on DraftKings right now as of 8:20. So about 3 minutes ago. Appreciate that news, Mitchell. I'm going to probably lock in Seattle as well. I like Seattle probably up to minus the 8.5. I do think it should be a double-digit win for them in Atlanta. And real quick, one more thing I wanted to look at before we transition to the next game. I just want to look at I already told you guys the Dream don't cover at home. I want to look at the Dream specifically as a home dog. I know that they beat the Aces, but I think they got smoked pretty much in every other game. So 1-6 straight up, 2-5 against the number, losing by an average of 12 points per game. They had lost and failed to cover 5 in a row before they did cover against the Aces by half a point at that too. So yeah, I do think Seattle is the right side in this game. I think we did a pretty good job of capping that one. Justin likes Joe Lloyd as well, over 20.5 points. And yeah, I think we did a pretty good job with that one. Let's go on to Mercury and the Fever. So Mercury and Fever, of course, we got the Mercury on the second leg of a back-to-back. I couldn't even watch the after halftime. I couldn't even watch anymore that game yesterday. The Chicago Sky was just getting the brakes beat off of them. So injury-wise, you do got Becca Allen, who missed yesterday's game for the Mercury. She will also remain out for this game and for the foreseeable future. I think she's going to miss the next few weeks with a hamstring injury. Also, interesting to note, we got to make sure we pay attention to the Mercury injury report because they still have time to roll out players, submit their injury report late because they're on the second leg of a back-to-back, of course. And for the Indiana Fever side, it's really just Timmy Bagley who will miss this game. She's out with a finger injury as expected. And a couple things to note for the Mercury. The one thing that really stood out to me was that even though they were dominating that game yesterday by such a big margin for a majority of the game, their starters still all play heavy minutes. Every starter on their team yesterday played 30-plus minutes last night, almost like they were trying to send a message. I'm like, yo, why is Nate Tibbins not putting in the bench and letting them get a little bit more run, especially when you got a game against Indiana in less than 24 hours? But for whatever reason, they didn't. So Mercury are 0-2 straight up, 1-1 against the number when they're playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. They're also 2-0 to the under. And I want to say those games came against the Connecticut Sun and the New York Liberty. A little bit better than the Indiana Fever, in my opinion. Now, as far as the Fever go, they have actually won and covered both games in the head-to-head matchup between the Mercury so far this season. So 2-0 straight up. They were favorites in one of those games. They were dogs in the other one. They came out and did their job in both of those games. And real quick, I wanted to look into that just a little bit deeper. Just the Fever. They are 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the number. They are 2-0 to their team total over. I'm not huge on laying points with the Fever. If I go to, and I probably should have did this already, if I flip to here, you can see that as a home favorite, the Fever are 7-4 against the number. So they have been covering, as a home favorite. We remember them being a road favorite right before the All-Star break. They were playing against the Dallas Wings, and they lost that game outright. I think they were laying like 4.5, 5, something like that, and lost that game outright. But now you get the Mercury here. Second leg of a back-to-back, I already mentioned. The Mercury's defense, I talked about this yesterday, but Chicago still couldn't score the basketball. This is much different offense than what the Chicago Sky trotted out. The Chicago Sky trotted out yesterday without the services of Kennedy Carter. This defense is still not that great in my opinion. They are 11th defensively over the last 5 games. That's even with yesterday's game taken into account. The Fever's defense is absolutely not great either, but offensively they have been the 3rd best team. If we remember back, I think it might have been Helms in the chat talking about laddering Caitlin Clark assists in that last game before the All-Star break, and that's the game that she set the record. I think you could have got her 15 assists at like plus 750 or something like that. I know it was a winner that was given out in the chat, and I think the Fever's offense is going to look really, really good. They, been at the crib just kind of practicing. They also, I think the next game is also in Indiana as well, so they don't have to travel after this game. We know Gamebridge Fieldhouse is always sold out. I'm pretty sure it's going to be sold out again tonight. I look for the Fever to be able to win the game and cover the spread. I'm not really big in laying points with the Fever, like I said, but I do think that they can get the job done here. I think the fatigue will set in a little bit for the Mercury. Some of that jet lag might come on the second leg of the second game instead of the first. And Kalia Copper was super fired up to be back in Chicago yesterday. She did go up and over her points prop. I think she finished for like 27. So, I would only be looking towards – I haven't bet the game yet, but I'm only looking towards the Indiana Fever, most likely up and over their team total at 88.5. It looks like it's the best number that you can get right now, minus 115. So either the minus 4 or team total up and over. I also want to, before I go back to the chat real quick, I also want to fade Diana Taurasi. I talked about this yesterday with her coming off the Olympic break, thinking that Kalia Copper would have a big game because she was back in Chicago for the first time. And that's exactly what we saw yesterday. We saw, I think Diana Taurasi had, like 11, 12 points, which was under her 15.5 number. Today, her line is sitting at 14.5. I checked right before the show. And I just want to fade her because she's old, because she's on the second leg of a back-to-back, because she played 30-plus minutes last night. I think the Mercury definitely run out of gas. And if I'm not certain they're going to blow them out. But Diana Taurasi could play, a tad bit fewer minutes tonight. It really wouldn't surprise me if she ends up being a late scratch and doesn't play at all. So under 14.5 points is also on my short list for today's game. And like I said, this isn't even more so to do with the Fever, because the Fever aren't great defensively. It's more so just I want to fade Diana Taurasi on the second leg of a back-to-back. So those are my thoughts on on this game. Let's go to the chat real quick and see what you guys say about this one. We have, I think so. Jay says Atlanta 5-1 against the spread in their last 6, but 0-8 straight up. Yeah, they have been covering numbers. I remember talking about this right before the break. I think they were playing Atlanta. No, they were playing Minnesota, and they covered that number. I think they were getting like 8.5. I just think that, and maybe that's why you fade them early. But I don't think that they were going to be able to put it together for a full game. Seattle is a much more superior team, in my opinion. But you do make a good point with Atlanta being 5-1. It does say that they have been able to, keep the game within margin. But you can also say the same thing with the Sparks. The Sparks had also been playing the same type of basketball. Just couldn't put it together last night at all. We'll see, if Seattle can come in and get a double-digit win. It's also at home too, though, Jay. You got to think about at home. I gave you the records at home. Much worse at home than they are on the road. I think just 3-8 against the number at home. Only covered their one spread in their last 7 games at home, and that one's about half a point to the Aces. So think about that as well. Justin says Fever -3 when he bet it. Dropping Dime says he likes Fever's first quarter. Team total up and over 22.5. Justin also likes Fever. He likes the total to go up and over 173.5. Helm says wait as long as possible to bet this one, in his opinion. Caitlin Clark over 10.5 assists for Justin. I couldn't talk you off. PZ likes the -4 for the Fever. Sounds like a lot of love for the Fever here. Helm says Phoenix looked really good. Cloud looked quick. Copper's still on fire from the Olympics. Griner got form. I lean Phoenix right now. No bet though. And you can wait it out, see what happens. I do think somebody from the Mercury could potentially sit in this spot, but we'll see how it goes. Mercury really trying to, separate themselves and get a little bit closer to the top of the standings. And the Fever, Chicago didn't do themselves any favor yesterday trying to catch the Fever and potentially avoid, a number, playing the number 1 and number 2 seed. So I think the Fever should be in 7th place in the playoffs, whereas Chicago is probably in the 8th spot now after yesterday's game. But I didn't look at the standings. Busy says he caught a 2.5 yesterday. No WNBA team has won back-to-back games this season. Has won a back-to-back game this season. So real quick on that note, I did look into that too. I looked at this season. I looked at road dogs that's coming off a win, and they are unrested, and they are 2-4 straight up, 3-3 against the number, and 5-1 to the over. It does look like they are allowing their opponents to go up and over their team total in 5 of the 6 games. So that's road dogs like the Mercury are playing on the second leg of a back-to-back, and they won the night before. 5-1 to the over are those opponents. So that would say, the Indiana Fever team total up and over. I think it's 88.5 right now, which is exactly what they're giving up in this query right now. And that's just for this season. One of the things that kind of stood out to me. Busy. What up, DJ? Appreciate you for tapping in. Helm says, I can't lay points with a super public Fever team. Kind of agree with you there, but I do think they're the right side. Hot TV Grit says, thanks for the picks yesterday, Chris. I wish I had played these ones because I did talk about these. Diana Taurasi under 14.5, Sky and the Mercury under 156.5. So I'm rooting for you for NFL too. Appreciate that. What up, Jay Muse? Mark says Diana Taurasi is almost old as him. Jerry says, I just want to fade her because she's old. It's nasty work. She is older. I'm just trying to cash, man. I'm just trying to cash. I promise. And some Will says, let's bounce back, Chris. Absolutely. So real quick, I want to make sure I jot those down. DT under her 14.5 points, and Indiana team total up and over 88.5. I think is the way that I would play this one. I also think the full game total could go up and over as long as the Phoenix Mercury play everybody. I think this is going to be much more of a shootout style game. I mentioned last thing I'll say is I mentioned the Mercury defense. It's not as good as it was yesterday against Chicago. They're 11th rated defensively, as you guys can see. So just something to kind of keep in mind. All right, I just wanted to get that out real quick. All right, let's go on to the last game that we have on the board, which is the Connecticut Sun in the Dallas Wings. Game will be played in Dallas tonight, and this line is still 5.5. Total is ticking up, and I probably should go ahead and put this one in because I haven't placed it yet. But this is the game that I feel most confident in for betting in general today. I like a couple things. One of them I like a little bit more than the other, but we'll just go in order as we always do. So injury report, we'll start there. For Connecticut, they got a couple ladies on the injury report that I think means something to this game.Dejanay Carrington, really, really good defender, elite defender. Probably gonna make the all-defensive team in the W this season. She will be out. I think it's an injury, illness. And then also Tiffany Mitchell will also miss this game. You also got Olivia Nelson-Ododa, who's also listed as a game-time decision. Connecticut, we got to remember, they ended up trading Rachel Branham, and they traded Mariah Jefferson to bring over Marina Mabry. I think that's offense and lack of defense. It also is a little bit of depth. Like they're going to need, a little bit more depth, in my opinion, especially when you're down both of your, Tiffany Mitchell can play the 2, she can play the 3. And same thing with Dejanay Carrington. She's like a 2, like a 3. So that's a little bit less depth there. On the opposite side, for Dallas, you got Satu Sabli, who's listed as probable with a shoulder injury. I think she is going to get out there and play today. And then Maddie Segrist is listed as doubtful I think she had broke like her hand or finger or something right before, and she's still gonna be out because of that. So I mean, with Dallas, pretty simple. The recipe so far this season has just been playing them up and over the total. This team has really struggled defensively. I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to get it, to get it figured out at all. And if I had to say that I wanted to bet them, I would only be able to look towards them to go up and over the totals, man. This team, like I said, they really struggled defensively. 17-8 to the over on the full season, which is about 68% of their games have gone up and over the total. You get a super low total, of course, because Connecticut Sun played really slow. And this total actually opened at 160. I think it might have been 158.5. I'm sorry, 159.5. But back to the Wings, 17-8 to the over. We look at them at home, 8-3 to the over. And I mentioned this already. I mentioned this right before the All-Star break when we bet the Indiana Fever up and over the total. The Dallas Wings have allowed each one of their opponents to go up and over the total. Every single one of them have scored over their team total. With the Fever, they ended up scoring 93 points. We got that at 89.5. We beat the market there. But it doesn't matter the team. The Sparks went up and over by 3.5. The Dream went up and over by 3. Mercury went up and over by 15. Lynx barely squeaked over by 1.5. The Sun that they played the last time went over by 3.5. Like, this is just not a Wings defense that I want to trust at all. So I do like the over at 162.5. If I'm playing the side, it's really really difficult for me to want to trust the Wings. To keep the game close. They are just 3-8 against the number at home, 4-7 against the 4-7 straight up. But I do kind of think, 6 is a tad bit too many points. Excuse me. You can actually get 6.5. No, you can't get 6.5 anymore. But I think there are a couple 6s out there that's still available. I kind of would be. It's ugly. It's a real ugly play, but I kind of want to take Dallas plus the points in this spot. I think that's the only way I'm looking in this game. You got, like I said, Marina Mabrey not being a part of the offense, quite yet. Granted, she got some extended time over the course of the last month, but this team was without their heart and soul, their leader, with Alyssa Thomas not being there. Of course, she was playing for Team USA, and she's the engine that makes this team run. She's the starting point guard, and without having Dejanay there as well, I think that could just hurt just a tad bit. So. If I'm looking at the spread, I probably would be taking the points here. I don't really want to lay with the Connecticut Sun on the road in this spot here. So real quick, if you guys look at the bottom, the second column, season records, you can see that the Connecticut Sun are 8-3 on the road, but just 5-6 against the number. And if I look at them as a road favorite really quickly, not that this even matters, but 4-4 against the number, winning by average of about 5 points. So really close to where this margin is right here when they have been a road favorite. And they also 5-3 to the over. So I like the over a little bit more than anything else. But I would be taking the points with the Dallas Wings as a home dog in this spot. Let's see what you guys think before we jump into a quick recap. Ryan says Nalissa Smith over her 8.5 rebounds, hit 7 of the last 10 and 4 straight versus the Phoenix Mercury. Her ladder to 10 rebounds and double is nice too. Okay. Helms likes the Wings plus the 5.5. Oh, and he says Wings on the money line at plus 200. Okay. No Carrington for the Sun. Yeah, I did see that. That's big. I do think that's big. I think they'll be able to generate some offense just because Dallas really struggles to get stops, but I like it. Dropping Dimes also on the Wings money line at plus 200 over on Bet365. Justin likes the Wings plus 6 in his pocket. Peasy says he's on Marina Mabrey over her 12.5 points. Her line really that low? That's a super low line for Marina Mabrey with no Dejanay Carrington. Wow. Okay. Connecticut Sun team total at 83.5 for anybody that's interested. I haven't logged that in yet. But I mentioned, like I said, Dallas has given up Every opponent has gone up and over their team total this season. Yeah, Marina Mabry 12.5 at FanDuel -125. I think Marina Mabry goes up and over 12.5 points today too. I absolutely think that she does, especially without Dejanay being there. And you don't have Rachel Branham, you don't have Tiffany Mitchell. Yeah, I think it's a big Marina Mabry game, and she's playing the worst defense in the WNBA. Why wouldn't you want to take her on a day like today? She was the one who demanded the trade out of Chicago as well, so I think she'll be fired up in this game. I like Marina Mabry over her 12.5 points as well, PZ. Definitely like that. Oh, damn, you're right. I didn't even see that. My fault. I'm glad you caught that. It's a little late now, but it did read Sun vs. Dream. That should definitely say Sun vs. Wings. My fault. Appreciate you shouting that out. Who said that? Mark. Sun versus Wings. My fault. Ball Talk says, gotta lay it with the Sun. Coach Trammell about to get out-coached by Stephanie White. I can also see Marina Mabry playing well in the system, especially with Thompson's penetration. She should get a lot of shot attempts. I absolutely agree with that. Jay Muse says, how many minutes would you expect Marina Mabry to play? Is it possible she comes off the bench? I don't think she's coming off the bench, Jay Muse. Not with Dejanay Carrington being out. I think she probably slides right into the starting lineup out there with, let's see what the projected starting lineup is. It's Marina Mabry, Ty Harris, Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner, and Brianna Jones. Makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, and I just really don't want to trust. I do not want to trust Dallas defensively. Now, should they improve with Satu back in the lineup? I think so. I like JC Sheldon as well. I just think it's going to be a game where a lot of points are scored. That's what I think about it, especially with having Satu back. Yeah, I think Connecticut can fill it up as well, especially with Marina Mabry. Marina Mabry is more offensive than defensive, in my opinion, as well. Helms agrees, says no chance she comes off the bench. What up, S. Dot? Tapping in with me early in the morning, says, what's up, Chris? Long time. Dropping in on the way to work to say what up to you and all the fellow Cappers in here. Ghost Storm and Fever. Shout out to my guy, S. Dot. What up, Jose? PZ says, let's cash. Kristen says, happy Friday, y'all. Happy Friday to you as well, Kristen. And Bissy says he likes Marina Mabry over her 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists in his pocket as well. So just looking at all three, I couldn't talk you off. Marina Mabry could be. I don't know about her rebounds and assists, just because it feels like, in my opinion, nobody gets assists on this team outside of Alyssa Thomas. But that's just my thoughts. I do like the over 12.5 though. Shout out to Peasy. I do think that's a winner, Peasy. And I may end up tailing you on that. It's a little juice at -125, but I do like that look a lot. Ball Talk says Marina gonna cook in Connecticut. My boy, one of the coaches, and says she don't miss. I like it. What up, Bruce? Says good morning. Thank God it's Friday. Appreciate you, Chris. Absolutely appreciate you for tapping in as well. So let me add that to the list real quick, and then I'll go through and finalize what I absolutely am going to play. Marina Mabry. Why we cap together so we can give each other looks, and we can decide what we want to play. Over her 12.5 points. All right. All right. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go to a quick recap. Haven't played anything yet today, but this is my short list. I talked about Seattle full game. But I think it was dropping dimes and Helms that really kind of the Seattle. After looking a little bit more into it, I told you guys Seattle is a plus 11.5 in the first half over the last 5 games, which is also correlated with them for the full season. In Atlanta, one of the worst first half teams in the WNBA. They are second to last, both last 5 games and on the full season. -16.5 in the last 5 games. Also just 3-8 against the number at home. So I do like Seattle a little bit more first half than I do for the full game. But I couldn't talk anybody off the 7.5 if it's still available. Diana Taurasi, I mentioned just wanting to fade Diana Taurasi because Second leg of a back-to-back. She played 30-plus minutes last night. She went under her points prop yesterday. I probably should have faded her then, but I do think that she could potentially see minutes decrease tonight just because it is the second leg of a back-to-back with travel. I want to fade Diana Taurasi as well. Indiana team total over 88.5 goes back to the trend that I talked about. One, you got the Mercury defense that is 11th rated over the last 5 games. It's going to look totally different tonight with Caitlin Clark at the helms out there, dishing the ball. Indiana has already found success already twice against the Mercury. The Mercury play at a really, really fast pace. We got to remember that as well. And it goes back to the trend. So Road Dogs on the second leg of the back-to-back coming off a win have allowed 5 of their 6 opponents to go up and over their team total so far this season. So I like that look, staying away from Indiana on the spread, but just thinking that they can get to 90 points. I do think that they can get there tonight. Connecticut Dallas over 162. The number is moving up, 162.5. That's actually my favorite play, the one that I had before, kind of talking it out with you guys. But I love that total to go up and over. And then shout out to, who was that in the chat? It was PZ. Marina Mabry. I hadn't even looked at her points prop, but over 12.5. No Dejanay Carrington, no Tiffany Mitchell. I think she slides straight into that rotation tonight and finds her stride against one of the worst defensive team in the WNBA. So I do like Marina Mabry to go up and over her 12.5 points as well. As always, these are in red because I haven't bet any of them yet. I'll send out what I end up locking in and send to the members. Hopefully we can bounce back off an 0-2 day that we had yesterday. Tomorrow we have 3 games. They start at 2:00. We got Minnesota Washington rematch, New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces at 4. That should be a treat. And Chicago and LA, 2 teams that just got smoked yesterday. I'm not touching that game with a 10-foot pole, but we don't have lines yet. We'll see what that comes out. Well, I don't see lines yet, but we'll see what those lines come out to as well. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. I always like to share resources that I use to handicap the game. Also want to shout out moneyballer.com real quick, where you could just, go through, very, very easily find different trends and a lot of analytical data stats, just to kind of support your plays and see where there is an edge. There is a link in the description of this video. If you guys are interested in signing up and getting 10% off your first month, you guys can use code ChrisBeCappinn with 2 P's and 2 N's, and you'll get 10% off your first billing cycle using the Money Baller. If you guys want to go check their website out, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely something that I use as well as a part of my handicapping process. And we got an NFL video coming today. We'll start going through some of the NFL division previews, which I'm super excited for the NFL season. If you're still watching, man, do me a favor. You enjoyed the show. Hit the thumbs up button, share the show, tell a friend to tell a friend is what I always say. Make sure you subscribe if this is your first time watching the video. Link for all my official plays are in the description when I do make them. I haven't bet anything quite yet. Bet responsibly, best of luck, and I will catch you guys in the next one. We'll be live. We're back in the grind, man. So we'll be back tomorrow, and I'll also be back today doing the NFL show as well. Catch you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. I'm out.